let's start, Ari, with your column that ran in the Athletic today about Jordan Johnson-Rubell, a five-star, right? Five-star
No,
safety.
4-star.
Okay,
He's
a
a
top
top
100,
100 player, though. Yeah.
right? From Texas, who goes to IMG. And like a lot of kids, he says the same thing. He's looking at all the same schools. He's making the visits. But where's he going for spring? Where's he going in April for the spring game, and why is that important?
Well, he's going to Colorado, but the thing that kind of drew me to him more than anything is that, and maybe this isn't as unique as I thought it was, but he could go anywhere he wants to go, and that's kind of the case with most top 100 players, or at least top 50 players. But like when you think about the schools that he is considering and the options that he has, he literally could take his life in any direction that he sees fit. And that means direction from a program standpoint, but also geographically. He is from Texas, so he has all the Texas schools after him. He plays in Florida, so he has all the Florida schools after him at IMG. He has been on a visit to USC. Ohio State and Michigan want him. Alabama wants him. Like from the buffet line of player has world at his fingertips. Like this is truly the most expansive list that you could come up with in terms of how he wants to decide where he wants to go. And I thought that was fascinating because, you're used to the blue bloods or the Florida schools or all the Texas schools or Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan being a part of these types of recruitments. But what jumps out to me is that he's going to Colorado for the spring game. So on top of all of those things or those places, all of whom have really unique sales pitches, really, when you go break it down. USC needs to fix its defense. He's a defensive back. Michigan wants to get over the top and win a playoff game and continue to try to grab the Big Ten away from Ohio State. Ohio State's trying to win its first national championship and going on a decade now. Alabama's trying to take it back from Georgia. All three Florida schools are trying to build something. Like all of his options, Texas and Texas A&M are joining a conference together, and it's going to be truly head-to-head on the field. And both have recruited very well the last few years. Which one's going to win the Texas battle? And it's just not only are they interesting dynamics, but they're also just whatever you could possibly want, there's an answer for. So now you toss Colorado into the mix, and you're going to play or potentially play for a program that's probably got the furthest, well, not probably, absolutely has the furthest to go in its build, Mitch, but also is coached by Deion Sanders. So add that to the buffet line of decisions that this guy has to make, and it's a very fascinating thing. And you and I worked together on this column idea, basically saying that like Deion Sanders has had a lot of success so far at Colorado, but it's a recruitment like this to me that is long and drawn out, where visits are currently happening and going to happen in the future. Can Colorado win this recruitment? Because if you look at all the recruitments that Deion has won, and this isn't a criticism, it's just what has happened or the way it's occurred based on his timeline. He's gotten into the year of a guy whose recruitment has already been settled for the most part, and it was managed to, convince him to flip, whether that be Travis Hunter from Florida State to Jackson State or Cormani McClain last year from Miami. Like, can he win not just this recruiting battle, but can he win a collection of recruiting battles that are situated like this one? And I think that this is like a nice little litmus test for what Colorado's ceiling actually is from a full cycle Deion from start to finish standpoint. So
right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think the point you made towards the end, and you kind of just said, but to me was the most important, is like the splashes are great. We didn't doubt that Deion could make the splashes, but can he go through the grind of a full cycle and sign 7, 8, 9, 10 top 100 guys, which you need to build a roster equivalent of Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State? I don't think we doubt he can do it. Is that the bar,
though? Is that the bar? Because like that's the thing that I've also struggled with too. Is like, Deion Sanders is.
I don't think there's a bar with Deion because he's just so unique. I honestly don't.
What would a successful 5-year period look like to you for Deion Sanders when it comes to recruiting results?
It's
hard, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think here's what my expectations are for Deion, if he stays at Colorado for 5 years, I honestly think he could sign 4 top 100 players next year or this 24, and then just
And that would
gradually
be successful too.
Yeah, yes. I think that would be successful. I think there's going to be a lot of kids. We'll see the signing period, the kids commit early. I think if they exceed expectations on the field this year, that's going to be enormous because there's going to be a group of kids that are going to want to go play for Deion no matter what. Sight unseen, he's Deion. Even if they struggle this year, I believe in Deion. But let's say they go 7-5 and they make a bowl game or something, and they're really fun and exciting. There's another pocket of recruits that we're sitting back saying, "Hey, I want to see him do it on the field." Now they're going to start considering Colorado. But
how much do you think that actually matters though when the other options are Alabama, Ohio State, all the Florida schools, Texas A&M, and USC?
I think winning matters a lot. I think it's
enormous. I know, but if they care a lot about winning, then there are 10 other options for these types of prospects to go to.
It's not Deion. I know what you're saying, but it's not Deion.
Yeah.
Coaching them.
And I'm not doubting your premise there, but I don't know if they win 7 games this next year, if that's going to be the profound beginning to what ends up being a top 10 class. I think that the Deion aspect of it, come play and be developed by Deion Sanders, is the selling point and will continue to be the bulk of the selling point regardless of what happens on the field this year, short of winning 10 games.
Right. I think that's the selling point for, I'm just making this number up, let's say 75% of the kids that are considering Colorado, but there's also 25% who love Deion, thinks it's cool, but yeah, I want to win. So if he goes 7-5, with 7-5 with this roster, this is their sales pitch, and this is what the kids are thinking. Wow, once I get there, once this next crop, once this top 10 class gets there, then we really can.
Yeah, I think I could buy that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would say that if they won 7 games, I would anticipate the recruiting class would be 10, 20% better. Yeah, I don't know if it'd be night and day.
I'm not saying night and day. I'm saying maybe 25% better, like 25%.
But like for me, my success for Deion is a little bit higher than 4 top 100 players, I think.
I was just
that might not be fair.
Like 4 1 year, 6 the next year, 8, and then if they continue to if they win and everything's going well, I think we can see Deion signing classes that rival Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State in 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I think too that sometimes I have irrational thoughts about how long things should take. And I'm okay with that. Like I was irrational about USC when Lincoln Riley got hired.
Yeah, yes,
and I turned out to be wrong about that.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you weren't. But I think this is not an original thought, but Bob Stoops ruined it for all coaches. He won a national championship in his second year at Oklahoma. We've seen quick turnarounds. Kirby Smart had they were 7-5 in his first year, whatever they were, and then the next year did they make the playoff the second year? I mean. But I got to separate my thought process from what I learned as a beat reporter too, because Ohio State won the national championship in year 2 of the Urban Meyer era as well. But I take all that aside, and I'm not trying to hijack this into the USC discussion, but I was incredibly disappointed by what I saw out of USC's class this past year. Like they had a few pieces on defense, but for the most part, it was 3 really good offensive players. I think 3 of the 4 top 100 players that they signed a year ago were either quarterbacks or receivers. But the depth of the class, and maybe that's not Lincoln Riley's fault because, defensive players, and particularly on both lines, are kind of weak in the state of California. But like I was picturing a 10 top 100 player nationally recruited USC class last year. And like maybe I'm an idiot for being disappointed by that. Maybe my thoughts or my predictions were too ambitious because like I bet, as everyone knows who listens to this feed, Andy Staples, that USC would make the playoff within the first 3 years of Riley's arrival. Very close.
And I came very close in year 1, but I didn't anticipate being right in year 1. Like they had a better season on the field than I anticipated that they would have last year. I thought that they were going to sign a mega class in year 1 and be situated very, very well for year 2 and 3. And that didn't happen. So now when you look at the way that USC is being built, they have another chance to be really good because they have Caleb Williams back in the current, situation with the Pac-12. But year 3, they're in the Big Ten, and they're not recruiting like a juggernaut. So it's like, I think I might end up winning the bet by default because it's going to be a 12-team playoff, and they might be a top 12 team in year 3. But the trajectory of USC's program, when I made that bet pre-expansion or realignment, the trajectory is not being matched. So when you say 4 top 100 players for Colorado, it's kind of like the successful Colorado class is the disappointing class that USC just had, which means that maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit on what we actually think is attainable in the immediate future for Colorado, especially considering the fact that if he signs 4 top 100 players this year in a top 25 class and they win 7 or 8 games, there's no telling that he'll even be the coach there in 2 years. So like I thought the transfer portal would go crazy. I thought he would get a bunch of players who just wanted to play Power 5 football for Deion lined up. And like here we are in middle of March, which is basically almost 4 months past the early signing period, or exactly 4 months. And they don't have a top 100 player committed right now. So it's like, is that what we thought was going to happen, or did we think it was going to be pandemonium? And maybe the truth is somewhere in between. So I'm excited to see how it pans out, but there are better players visiting Colorado than were ever visiting before.
Right. And that's the point.
But will it manifest into more results in terms of signatures? And I don't know the answer to that, because as great as Deion is, I still don't know if his mega personality and what he brings to the table from a marketing standpoint outweighs what Georgia or Ohio State or Alabama are offering.
Like when push comes to shove, can a kid pull the trigger and sign with Colorado and pass up the opportunity of playing in Bryant Denny?
And we've already seen it. We've already seen it twice. We saw the number 1 player in the country go to an FCS school.
Right.
So I know it's going to happen. It has already happened. I don't know that it is going to happen enough where you're getting 10 guys in an individual class, because that would be 10% of the top 100 players that you're offering, or a total top 100 players, more than 10% of the ones that you're offering probably have to decide that playing for Deion is more important than going to an NFL factory that puts out draft picks like it's no big deal. And maybe that'll be the case, but I am very curious what his first full class is going to look like, and I'm very curious to follow this recruitment, because I think it's going to mirror how other recruitments that are in similar situations are going to go.